Hi there. Welcome to Mystical Motherhood's podcast, episode number 2. I wanted to jump right in and teach you about conscious conception, a subject that's dear to my heart as a nurse practitioner and as a labor and delivery nurse. I wrote about this extensively in my book, Mystical Motherhood, and you can find more details on my website at mysticalmotherhood.com. But I really want to talk to you today about 4 to 5 specific topics you need to think about before you have a baby. This is important for new and for experienced mothers who are interested in, trying a different way or bringing down a different and a really high child onto this planet. And you do this by changing yourself and amplifying your own field and looking at your own issues and really thinking it through rather than jumping right in and wanting to, have a child really fast. Even if you have had a baby and you are pregnant right now, this can still apply to you, and it can apply to all of your friends. Many women can learn from this process. So the things I'd like to really go over today, I want to talk to you about creating a meditation practice and about getting up early in the morning to do that and the reasons why it's important before you have a baby and while pregnant to have a meditation practice. Another thing I'm going to speak about during this podcast is how to connect to your baby before you're pregnant and also while you're pregnant and why this is important. I will teach you some specific things you need to speak to your partner about and questions you both need to ask each other in order, and to discuss so that you're both prepared for the changes that are going to come to your life when you do birth a child into this world. And I also want to look at the relationship you have with yourself and the relationship you have with other people in your life and how that would affect your child and how you can stop generational patterns from continuing once you start to look at yourself and your own subconscious issues. So back to number 1, let's talk about meditation and why it's so important when you want to consciously conceive or even have a conscious pregnancy. So I teach Kundalini yoga and meditation. There's a lot of different meditation practices you can obviously try. I like Kundalini because first, it's the fastest growing yoga on the planet. It is a technology in a way that it makes you feel really good, really fast. I compare it to a smartphone. You basically dial in a code on your phone and you just get an upgrade and you feel really good within 3 minutes to 11 minutes. So it's the type of meditation that I teach to all my clients and I teach on the public level. And it's also written about in my book. I have about 20 meditations in there with illustrations of why you want to meditate during pregnancy and also specific meditations pertinent to motherhood. So meditation is important because it helps to make you feel better. It helps to decrease depression. It will help to get through your subconscious. So basically up until age 7, specifically in the womb, you're programmed. And everything's it's like you're running on the theta brain, which to be really short, it means that you up to age 7, you're seeing the whole entire world like a movie. And so good or bad, you're being programmed with these different scenes. And you can't really, you can't tell your body, oh, forget that scene or remember this. And so your whole life, you're basically living out these different programs. And if you don't clean out your garbage can or your mind, it just starts to overflow and you become more neurotic and you get more upset about things and you are less driven and you're pretty much repeating the same pattern, whether it's in a bad relationship or it's in a bad job or a dead end place you're living, and you're repeating it over and over and everyone can see it but you, because you're living in your subconscious. So I like Kundalini because it deals with these issues fast and effectively. And it makes you feel really good within seconds after doing it. It works with mudras, so you move your fingers and it connects to your brain. It works with mantra, which is a song. So if you're feeling really sad and your mind's running fast and you can't sit down, I often tell clients like that, just turn on different Kundalini mantras, which can be found on YouTube. And I have a list of different artists in my book, Mystical Motherhood. It's a really good way to meditate. It works with breath. because the shallower your breath, the more likely you are to be depressed, because depression actually lives within shallow breath. So, yogis can breathe like 6 breaths a minute, where the typical adult is like 22. So you want to deepen all these things so you can deepen the relationship with yourself. And meditation also brings a way of creating self-psychology. So when you're sitting with yourself and doing a Kundalini meditation, which is typically a movement with a mantra and a breath work, so it's not boring. That's why I like it. But you're able to kind of look at the patterns in your life and the things that come up through your mind, and it's like a form of like understanding yourself, because you go face to face with who you are and your own, ways that you sabotage everything, because we all do that. But this is so vital to do before you have a baby, so that you know who you are, and you know the type of child you'll attract, and you know what you'll create. Because I guarantee, if you don't look at these types of things before you have a child, you're going to just create a child just like you are. And if you want to better the world, you could start with bettering yourself and attracting a child that, will do something even grander or better than you for the planet. And that's the goal, I hope. So meditation is important. It's important to continue doing this while you're pregnant, and start it before, so that you're ready to continue doing it while you're pregnant. So you can actually clear the karma of the child and create a totally amplified baby while you're pregnant, just by meditating. Even 11 minutes a day can change the child, and you can create a higher destiny for the being. So in ancient yogis, first off, would attract a baby for up to 15, 40 years before they had a baby. They would talk to the baby before the baby came down. They would have a very strong meditation practice, because they would want to connect to themselves and to the spiritual realm in order to call this child down. But then also, when the child's within them, they would learn to connect to the baby through meditation and just through an internal dialogue. But that internal dialogue of connecting with the baby can happen long before you conceive. So that's the second thing I want to talk about, is you can actually call down the type of soul you want to bring on this planet. So if you want to bring down a healer, or you want to bring down a scientist, or you want to bring down a writer or an artist, or Frida Kahlo or Mozart, anybody you have an attraction towards, you can start to create that dialogue with the child long before you become pregnant. The problem is the clients I work with, and also the clients in the clinic, people are having problems with fertility, is they wait to connect to the child. They want to have a baby, they get off birth control, and they're hoping to get pregnant within a month. And it doesn't always work like that for every single woman. And you actually want to take some more time to really, really think about who you want to bring down on the planet. So you can connect to the child while walking. You can actually have a conversation with the type of child you want to bring down. You can do this while you're meditating. You can do this in the bathtub, and you can do this just talking out loud to your partner of like, what does this child look like? And this kind of is like a form of manifestation. If you can even think of it as simple as that, like, I want to bring, this soul down, and I want to connect to the, because this child's going to change your life. So each child brings its own amazing opportunities and unique characteristics to the family it's actually birthed into. So some children will bring down money, some children will bring down spirituality, some will bring down terror. So you want to get a good one, right? And so you have the power to do that in some shape or form, because you attract what you think about. If you want to learn more about that, that's more in my book, Mystical Motherhood, but that's the basics of that. And while also connecting to the baby, you can do this by connecting to your reproductive organs. So another thing that women forget when they want to consciously conceive is that it's important to actually create a relationship with your womb. And it's not like hokey dokey or super spiritual. It's just practical, because if you've been on birth control for a very long time, you basically told your reproductive organs for maybe, the typical, American woman, if you're from America and listening, 15 years. It wouldn't surprise me, since the time we're 15 years old and you want to get pregnant around the age of 30, let's say as an average person, possibly, you told your body for 15 years that it cannot get pregnant, and each month you prayed to God you weren't. So what is that doing? It's it's creating a disconnect between your mind and your uterus. So you want to turn back that system, energetically. You want to turn it back on. And so you can do this by connecting to your body in let's say you're taking a bath or in the shower. You can rub the fallopian tubes. You can rub the just rub bilaterally in your womb area, and you can send white light energy to this area. You can do it while walking. Just say, I'm ready to bring down a child. I'm ready to conceive a child. All of these things will help you consciously connect to the fact that you want to get pregnant and you're ready to conceive a high being. So important especially if you've been on birth control to reignite those organs. A third thing you want to do for conscious conception is you want to speak to your partner about all the things you need to, think about long before you have a child. So, even me being as a practitioner of, these different arts and, Western medicine, it's hard you don't really think about all the details that a child needs and how you're both going to parent. And having a plan for that long before you have the baby will change the entire way you react to the process. And so you want to ask questions about long before you become pregnant, or even if you're pregnant right now, start. And so you want to ask, what type of role will each of you play? Will someone be the core provider financially? Will someone be the person who takes care of the child? Or do both of you want to work? If both of you want to work, who will take the baby to the daycare? Will you choose a daycare? Will you choose a home person, someone to come to your house and take care of your child? And when will you return to work? How many weeks or months do you think you'll get off, and how much can you afford? You also want to look at how many hours a week you will work or your husband will work, because it's really hard when one person works 80 hours a week and the other one's home with a child. It's really, really hard when both people work 60 hours a week and no one's home with children. So you just need to figure out, at least if you're going to do that, you need to create, a plan around that. And also you need to remember that the child came down to be taken care of by you and your parent and by your husband. So they wanted to be with you and learn from you, karmically and spiritually and physically and emotionally. So you have to be somewhat prepared to be in your child's life, even if you have a full-time job. Somehow make time for that. And be ready that your heart's going to be pulled in both ways. And how are you going to respond to that? You need to look at, don't assume that parents or your parents or his parents or her parents are going to take care of the baby. Never assume that unless you have a full conversation with them ahead of time, that what's going to happen, because oftentimes things change, especially when a child comes out. It's too stressful for some people. Do you agree on vaccinations? What is your opinion on the type of food the baby will eat? What do you feel about the type of schools they'll go to? Or even, how are you going to discipline? Where will the child sleep? Are you going to breastfeed? Are you comfortable with giving formula? Where do you ultimately want to live? And how are you going to get there? Do you have the proper shelter for this baby? And, the discipline thing is really, really hard, because if you've two people coming at it, from two different ways, or one person was traumatically abused or another one wasn't even ever disciplined and lived a complete free lifestyle, those things will come up when you're taking care of a child, and you really can't plan too far ahead. So you can go all the way to college and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What if we move? How is that going to affect our child? All of these questions are really, really important to understand. And it also helps you to get to know yourself, because I'm going to leeway into our next subject is you need to know who you are before you become pregnant, or if you are pregnant or you even are a mother right now. This is important to understand, is that who are you as a person? Who are you as a mother? Who were you as a child? And your husband should understand this. So this is the fourth thing I'd like to talk about, is really getting to know yourself through a personality test is really, really important for conscious conception. So think about, you could take a personality test online, but you even want to go deeper. It's like you can work with somebody. If you can find somebody, you can work with me. I work with women all over the world, helping them to consciously conceive. But you want to look at your past and all the things in your life that led you up to who you are now. And why, those specific events that you remember all the way from your childhood evolved in around relationships, around trauma, around happiness, or, just these really vivid memories that create your subconscious patterning. And you want to look at what happened in those moments and why do you remember them, and what was your, relationship to the people, and have you healed the relationship you have with your mother? Have you healed the relationship you have with your father or your aunts and uncles? If you've had any trauma, have you dealt with that? And how does that affect everything else in your life and all the different patterns that you now create? And if you've had miscarriages, if you've been trying to get pregnant for years, or you had a traumatic birth previously, all of this needs to be worked through. I can't tell you how many women I've worked with that are just, their entire reproductive organs are shut down because they were sexually abused. They were emotionally abused. They don't have a relationship with their mother. They don't know who they're going to be as a mother. So you need to know who you are as a person. Your belief systems around parenting, your belief systems around discipline, all these different things. Are you specifically looking at the relationship with your mother? You need to say, was it healthy? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? And how does that relationship affect every single other relationship in your life? Because I guarantee that you can find a similarity between the relationship you have with your mother and every relationship in your life, with boyfriends, with girlfriends. There's going to be some underlying pattern because the mother is who created you. And so you caught her vibe in the womb. And so if you really look deep at these subconscious issues, it's amazing how much the mother affects us. And so understanding yourself is vital. You also really want to look at, I talk about this in other podcasts and in so many of my YouTube videos at Mystical Motherhood, but food. You need to have a clean diet while you're pregnant, before you conceive, and while you're feeding your children. So the best time to start is before you become pregnant for conscious conception. So you want to make sure not only are you eating clean, avoiding toxins, but you also want to really, 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 really fill your body up with high nutritious supplements and foods that really get to the core of your cells, with trace minerals, bone broth if you eat meat. And really, really, really good fruits and vegetables. I talk about more in other episodes, and I also speak a ton about this in my book, Mystical Motherhood, and create an entire plan for women to eat healthy. You also want to exercise. Walking is one of the best, I believe, is one of the best exercises there is, and it's easy, and you can fit it in all the time. The way we sit is changing our DNA. It just doesn't work for our bodies. Our bodies weren't ever meant to sit this much. And so if you don't have time to exercise, just start walking, start doing stairs. It's recommended that you do 5 miles a day of walking while you're pregnant. And so starting this before would be an awesome opportunity to get your body in shape, because sometimes you need to lose weight to become pregnant, and sometimes you need to gain a little weight. A lot of my clients, they don't have enough. Their BMI is, if your BMI is 18 to 18.5, you may have some trouble, or you may not have the nutrition within you in order to produce a child, because the child will take from you. So these are all the things you want to think about when it comes to conscious conception. And you also want to begin to connect, to your partner on a high level and raise your vibration. So I will go into this in another YouTube video and a totally another podcast, but you want to lead up to the time that you conceive the child in a really, really, you want to amplify your field, and you want to make it a really, really holy event. So I know that when you're trying to have a baby, you would probably have sex like 8 times within the period of creating the child. And I disagree with that. I think you should make it, really know when you're ovulating, and then make it into a holy event where you don't have any sex leading up to that moment in time, and where your field is amplified. You can do that through meditation. I explain a lot of different ways in my book, Mystical Motherhood, how to do that. You can also do this through walking, through giving yourselves baths. You can massage each other. You can pray. You want to just go really, really deep within yourself and make the moment of conception the highest frequency moment with your partner you can ever imagine. And you do this by expanding your auric field or your energy so that you just feel really good and you feel joyful. And then you call down the child during sex, and you also want to have, if your partner will do this with you and amplify too, he can. That's great. And you can also do this if you're doing it, if you're conceiving through technology, you can still amplify your field on through that process. It's not impossible, and it's also all explained in my book. And I'm going to go deeper into that and the tantra of increasing your energy in a different podcast. But I just wanted to bring it up so that you think and you know that the time of conception, it creates the energetic frequency and base frequency of your child for the rest of its existence. So that moment in time, you want to make sure you date what day did it happen. Write it down. Call down the soul. After you guys have sex, sit up and meditate. Connect with make sure that your minds are connected, you and your partner, so that you're not, there's no disagreements between you. And make sure that you're both on the same page to do this consciously, that you both want to bring down a child and you're excited and you're connecting on a deeper level. And it's not just having a bunch of sex, but it's making the times you do have sex, or hopefully the one time, a really, really special experience, so that that was it. I did that consciously, and I did it all the right ways. I looked at everything in my life, and I made changes in order to bring down a child that can change this earth. So just to repeat what I went over, very briefly, there's so many more details about this, but what I can cover in a small podcast episode or on a YouTube video is only so much. So first, you want to start a meditation practice. It's best to meditate in the mornings to amplify your field and to start the day off with thinking positive thoughts. So meditation practice can happen, before you get pregnant, while you're pregnant, and then into your motherhood to just keep your sanity. It'll change your entire life. Number 2, you want to connect to your baby. So you want to talk to your baby before you're pregnant and while you're pregnant. Like every single detail, just create a conscious conversation with this child so you can increase the intelligence of the child while you're pregnant. I don't think I went deeply into that during this episode, but that's important. But also talk to the baby before you actually conceive the child. And know that you're doing what ancient yogis did commonly. It's not, it's not weird. There is someone listening to you. So just create that relationship, and then create that relationship with your reproductive organs so that you're turning them back on. Totally normal things that Western practitioners are missing. The third thing you need to do is you need to speak to your partner and plan what it's like to have a baby and how this will change your life. So I talked about some of the questions, and you can find more of these questions and specifics in my book, Mystical Motherhood, which is on Amazon. Number 4, you want to know who you are as a person and who you are as a mother and who you are as a child and as a daughter, and all the relationships in your life, a reflection of your entire life and your belief system. So this could be done over time before you conceive, or even while you're pregnant, and even into motherhood. You're always constantly working on yourself and saying, oh, am I going to do what my mom did, or am I going to change this? Because you can change all the generational patterns that you were given while you have your baby. You want to look at your health, your overall health, such as your exercise and your diet. And you want to connect to your husband at the time of conception in a really, really high way. And by meditating, walking, and making the time that you're ovulating or you're doing this, whatever way you're going to have the child, that you're amplifying the event and making it a really, really high spiritual event. Thank you for listening. If you've loved this and you've learned something, please share it. There are so many women in the earth that want to know this knowledge, and they don't know where to find it. They don't know how to get there, and they don't have any resources of what it means to have a conscious pregnancy. So it means so much to them. If you do that, you can subscribe to learn more. And I'm available for private sessions and group sessions. And you can find more about this on mysticalmotherhood.com. You can purchase the book on Amazon. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Thank you so much.